Hi, I'm Paola of Paola Ponce Nails. I am a licensed manicurist here in Los Angeles and also a certified gel nail instructor for Japanese gel brands. Today's lesson is going to be about transfer foils, and I want to share my knowledge of them with you, and troubleshooting them and figuring out most common problems with them. And once you've mastered these, maybe some cool chic nail art techniques also. So let's get started. I've already designed 4 tips here that I'm going to use or reference to troubleshoot some of the more common problems with transfer foils. What are transfer foils? Transfer foils usually come or look like these guys here, really shiny material, gray on the back, and when you press them on to a sticky layer of gel, they transfer onto the nail, hence the term transfer foils. I have a few colors to work with here, and I might be using all or just a couple of these. So I've already prepared my nail tip, and you would like to do this with, if you're doing it on a client, you want to do your base coat, your coats of color. If you're working with highly pigmented product like Japanese gel brands, then one color for this type of nail art is usually sufficient. If you're working with product that's a little bit more diluted and needs a couple coats, then make sure you go ahead and do that at this time. Okay, I prepped mine, and I'm using black so you can see a really nice contrast between the foils and the actual color. We're gonna get started with this guy here. Now, one of the more common problems with transfer foils is that people have, or nail technicians have, problem transferring the foil onto the nail in like a more dense kind of even form, kind of like this or like this. Most of the times they can end up with like a shattered kind of crackle kind of pattern like this. And in my experience, when I've worked with clients, this is not necessarily the look that I'm going for. I'm going more for a look like this, where it's more solid, or like this. So I'm going to troubleshoot that problem with you. Now, you can pretty much use any base, just to name a few brands, more common brands: Gelish, Vetro, anything that you're comfortable with or you're already using. Go ahead and use that base before you switch on to another. The base might be an issue, but try what you have first. I'm gonna use leaf gel base to show you the 2 designs. Now, another common problem or issue that might be arising with your transfer foils is the fact that you're applying a different pressure when you're transferring the foil. So not only is necessarily the gel base, but it can be the pressure you're putting on when you're transferring the foil, and also it can be the duration of the cure time. So maybe you're not curing enough, or you're over curing, you're curing too much. So those 3 problems, over curing, pressure when transferring, and the type of base coat, might all be related or be isolated problems that you may have when transferring these foils. Okay, so I'm going to show you with my leaf gel base here. And I've learned personally with my leaf gel base that I need to go ahead and cure this for the 30 seconds, the full 30 seconds. Over curing more than 30 seconds, you really cannot do with this base, but you can definitely under cure. And I do find that with this particular base, you do might have encounter issues if you're under curing. So go ahead and cure it for 30 seconds. So take a little bit of your base, and you don't need a lot. A little bit is fine. So my brush is not soaked in gel. You always want to grab product on one side of the brush and make sure you don't have any product on the back. So with this amount, you're gonna spread it thin here. Right. And then you're gonna cure that again for 30 seconds. If you're using LED light, that would be 30 seconds. If you're using a UV light, which are less common, but people do have them, I would say go ahead and do the 2 minutes. Usually an LED cure translates to a UV cure. In LED, it'll be 30 seconds, and in UV would be 2 minutes. So using those times, go ahead and use that information to cure it accordingly, okay? So we'll take that out. Now I'm going to show you a really cool trick. When cutting your foils, you don't want to handle them too much, because if you handle them too much, you do have oil on your fingertips. You don't want to transfer that oil onto the back of your transfer foil. So you can go ahead and take a pair of scissors. And one thing I discovered while at the craft store, I found this like paper cutter here. So if you need like a straight line for any of your nail art needs, or your foils or your papers, it's a great tool. My recommendation, because foils are usually very, very thin, is to tape them onto a business card or any other type of card or construction paper that you might not need or you want to recycle. It's a great idea. Perhaps not the most effective or budget friendly, right, to cut up your business cards, but that's what I use here. So I'm just gonna put this in there, and I'm just gonna cut a piece of what I need. Okay. I'm gonna take my foil, and again, I don't want to handle it too much. And once you've cured your base, you also don't want to touch your base, because if you come in contact with it, you're gonna put oils onto that nail, and you're not gonna have that successful transfer. Okay, so I'm going to show you. Why don't we start with like a more dense look? Okay, so for this look, it's very important that you press once, and you press with a lot of surface. So depending on the finger that you're using and depending on the size, you're gonna want to take that into consideration when you're pressing on. I personally like to press on with my thumb because it does have the more surface area, and usually the nail size doesn't matter, but if you're comfortable and you have like a bigger pad of your index finger, then make sure go ahead and use that, okay? So again, I like to press with my thumb. And you want to do it once and push firmly and pull back up. Now if this one doesn't work, then I will show you this one, because it does take one time to run it. So using a lot of surface area, you're gonna do that, and then you're gonna come up. So you'll end up with this really cool like amoeba type of look, but notice that everything that I pressed on is pretty much solid, like in the center. Obviously you cannot press on the sides too much, so you will have those cutout patterns. Okay, you would put a sort of base coat or builder gel to encase this. It doesn't really need much encapsulation because it is a very thin foil, so I wouldn't be too concerned about getting a builder gel to encapsulate this. I would just do base coat. To cure that. I want to also show you now how to do what happens when you don't apply that firm pressure. You'll end up with something like this. Okay, so let's grab a little bit of gel on one side of the brush, do that here. And I was going to cure this, but I'm gonna use the time to cure this and that together. It does help to cure it just a tiny bit, just to make sure that all of the foil has been attached to the gel. It's not necessarily a big issue if you don't. I always just like to, have all my bases covered and do a little bit extra. So I will let that cure for a full 30 seconds. That's on 20, probably change it, add a little bit, 10 more seconds. And the look that I'm going to show you is usually the look that's more popular, and I personally don't like it. It looks kind of flaky, kind kind of like really too abstract for me. I do like these like more solid and, you know, just different type of patterns. I mean, I really like this. It almost looks like a butterfly wing, and I think I just used my thumb for that, and that's what it gave me. So you do end up getting like nicer patterns, and this is a much bigger nail, so you were able to get that whole pattern on there. So the look that most people end up looking, which I don't necessarily like, but hey, you know, it might be someone else's cup of tea, is that this one here, which is a little bit more shattered, a little bit more flaky. And the way you end up with that is basically when you just keep pressing the transfer foil over and over on the sticky layer. So again, and you're not necessarily being concerned about surface area the amount of surface area touching the nail tip. So I'll show you. So see, what happens is you start contaminating your foil, and so you end up picking up other gel residue on the nail tip and transferring that on the back of your tape. So that's why you end up with like that shattered kind of murky look, which I'm not too keen of, but again, it is a form of art. You might like it, not my thing. And it's a great time to show you how to avoid this. So this is what happens kind of like when you reuse, right, the same foil over and over. Kind of get that crackle look, which I am not too keen of, and I personally don't think that a lot of people are too keen of. Otherwise, crackle polish would have stuck around, right? And it didn't. So here you see the difference. You end up with a crackle look versus more of that solid, you know, like abstract shape per se. And you can go ahead and add anything cool on that, like outlines or glitter or anything. This, I think, if you add anything else to this, you might overwhelm it. Okay. So those are the two looks. You can go ahead and cure for a couple seconds, 5-10 seconds, just to make sure that all the foil has adhered. You would then take a sealer or a base coat, nothing too thick, just go over it once, and then also go over it with top coat, and you will seal the design. Okay, let me show you now the cooler looks. Let's show you this middle pattern there. Believe it or not, that took some thinking, okay? So I'm going to, again, you don't need a lot of base coat when you're putting it on your nail tip. You just need a thin amount on one side of the brush, and you'll put that on the nail tip. Now you notice I'm doing each individual tip one at a time because I don't want to overcure the other one, right? So I want to show you what happens when you overcure, when you're undercure, and all of this. So remember, with these two first tips, we cured fully to 30 seconds, and then we did that transferring. This guy, the same thing. We're gonna do the 30 seconds, but what we're gonna do actually is take our business card with our foil here, and I'm gonna cut a section, thick section, I would say. I'm gonna put that on the belly, the middle part of the nail there. Okay, so I'm gonna take my cutter, probably do a little thicker. And again, you can get this tool. It's not a nail art tool. It's just a hobby or art supply store kind of tool that you can use. It's always fun to walk in there and find new things, and I think there's a lot of things you can use for nail art. All right, so this one, I caught the tape side, so no problem. You just take your scissors, sneak them underneath there and underneath there. And so you've already laid your gel base on the nail tip, and you didn't cure. You don't want to cure quite yet. Actually, I think this might be a little big for what we're trying to do. So I'm gonna go ahead and just take my scissors, since I've already taken it off of the business card, and cut a smaller section just down the middle. Okie dokie. I'm gonna set that there. And since this is a little long, I'm gonna take my scissors and cut another piece. Now it's very important to keep organized when you're working with foils, and with nail art in general. So I like to work on top of lint-free surfaces. So any plastic, acrylic, glass palette works for that, just to keep everything lint-free and organized. Now, you can take your nail or your tweezers or your crystal katana for that matter, any tool to press down on the paper, right? And you want to press as much as there. Now every pattern is different. I won't guarantee you that you'll get that exact pattern, but it's an idea of what you can do with transfer foils. So this is all just to kind of open up your brain to new ideas and get creative in the salon. The main important lesson for this particular tutorial is to understand curing times. So here I put it in 10 seconds. I'm actually gonna do 30, so I'll add 20 seconds to that, okay? So it's to understand curing times. Understanding what base you're using first, testing it out, seeing if it transfers well, and you're gonna do this in two manners. You're gonna do it with a minimal cure, you can do 10 seconds, or a maximum cure of 30 seconds, and see if either one of those times transfers better with the particular base that you're using. The second thing you want to do is practice transferring with pressure. Sometimes, again, because you're trying to get like a solid look, like this guy there, you might get a little nervous, and as soon as that transfer foil makes contact with the stickiness, it's going to grab it. So it is very important to stay still and provide a firm pressure to that transfer foil so that you get a nice solid shape. If you are looking for the crackle, shattered look, then obviously you can get a little bit messy. It doesn't really matter. You can just press until you're happy. Okay, so that has cured for a little bit over 30 seconds. And now I'm going to show you with my tools. It's nice to work with tools. That way you're not, getting the product onto your hands or the actual nail. Now you're gonna pull it off. And this one did not cure all the way for some reason. Oh, here we have some transfer. So there you go. What happened was it didn't really get attached back here, but again, it's a smaller nail compared to this one. You can definitely get anything solid and abstract on your nail. It's kind of like this guy, just it's a little bit more control in the area that you're getting it. So another tip of mine is, if you don't want foil on areas that you just don't want foil on, then cut your foil in sections, okay? You can add anything cool on this, outline or studs or crystals, anything to make it really fun. It's so interesting. It looks like it didn't transfer, but it did. It's there. I know what happened. There's two pieces here. Here we go. You see the transfer amount, the amount that was transferred onto the nail. Okay, lastly, I am going to show you this guy. And this guy here with the linear pattern is very similar to the second middle here, okay? Now, you can obviously cut your sections with your little tool guy here. And I might have some ready for you here. Yes, we do. I probably want them a little bit thinner because this nail is smaller. So I'll probably grab these three. There. And I'll probably take this extra one too. Again, when your foil is smaller in pieces, you can't really use the tool here, but I did use it initially to get those pieces. So scissors are very important to be precise with your trimmings. If you want like a straight solid line like these guys here, it's going to be very important to have sharp craft scissors. Very, very important. Okay, my surface here is lint-free, so I'm just going to let those guys fall there. And I can cut this guy a little thinner. This last one is one of my favorites. It's super, super cool, and it's definitely trending on social media, like outlets like Instagram and perhaps YouTube now. And it almost provides that glass look that we're always looking. Anything holographic, chrome, all of that is very popular right now. So this is one way to take advantage of it, right? And make some more money. All right. Just gonna cut it off there. All right, very easy technique, but it looks like $1 million. Same thing, we'll take just a little bit amount of gel. And for this one in particular, you do want a little bit of gel, not too much. And because this one you will need to encapsulate. Okay, thin amount. You're going to not cure it. You're then going to take your tweezers and inlay your foil. This does take some precision, especially if you're working with like a smaller nail. I'm gonna leave like a millimeter back there, even though this is not a real client. It's a good opportunity to get used to leaving that 1 millimeter to encapsulate. This is time consuming when you're doing this in the salon, so please do not shortchange yourself or, you know, outbid yourself. Okay. And for this smaller nail, we might just have room for one more. Very important to cut your strips relatively thin. If you don't, then you're gonna have a hard time them laying flat. And if this happens, then even when you encapsulate them once, you might have to do it twice and then buff, and it's just gonna provide a lot of work. I've done it many, many times, and sometimes even till this day, I just, you know, it's difficult to get a fine, thin cut. So you end up cutting them a little thicker. Definitely go thinner. Thinner would definitely the gel will definitely encapsulate that, so it'll save you time in the salon too. You can cut these any shape. If you want to go a little bit more triangular, that's fine. I've actually liked the linear look as of recently, so that's what I'm going for. Okay, make sure that all of the tape or all of the transfer foil is inlaid into the gel, that none of it is sticking up, because when you cure it, the gel won't grab on or hold on to the transfer foil. So you might have a little bit of gaps, which is fine, you know, it's all abstract anyways. That's the really cool thing and easy part about transfer foil, is that it's abstract and it's really hard to do anything wrong. I'm gonna go ahead and cure for a full cure of 30 seconds, okay? Again, for all of the designs, I do recommend you encapsulating them, or sealing them, I should say. These are encapsulations more for like bigger, bulkier pieces of nail art. This is such a thin foil that you're really just adding a base coat and then a top coat, and then you're all done. Super, super easy. The one that's definitely a little bit more time consuming would be the linear one here, but it's definitely worth the time. And I mean, as long as you price it out right at the salon, it's worth the time. It's really cool and really, really popular. Again, 30 seconds, and now the moment of truth, this super, super cool thing. You're going to grab your tweezers, grab a foil, and gently peel that. And there you go. Very thin application. If you have a little bit of it sticking up, don't worry. Once you put your base coat on it, it'll seal just fine. And then you might want to go over it with a buffer, a very gentle buffer, like a 200 grit buffer. And you might want to go over your file here. All right, so these designs are ready to be sealed. You can grab any base coat that you like. It Doesn't necessarily have to be hard gel or builder gel, just another base coat. We're gonna take a little bit of that, put that over. And the only one that I would be concerned about retouching is this one here. But all of the other ones are just ready for base coat and top coat. Super easy. Looks like a lot of work, but it's not. And in this example, I use black just so that you can see a contrast. But if my recommendation is to use similar colors to what the foils that you're using. So, for example, for the one that we inlaid last, I'll do a full cure, like this guy here, I would have really done it with like a light translucent pink or a highlighter, hot pink or anything like that, and then put in my strips a little closer, and it would have looked like a solid holographic, you know, transfer foil nail. Looks great. But for this case, I think it's nice to have that contrast, especially on camera. But have fun with it. Choose whatever color patterns you like, color combinations. It's great. All right, so those guys are ready. Now you're ready for just top coat, and you're all done. Thank you for watching my lesson on mastering transfer foils. If you like our video and you learned great things, give it a thumbs up. Don't forget to subscribe. And if you'd like to leave a comment, ask any questions or suggestions for our next video, make sure to make that known in the comment section.